So the name Eden and Empire is such a unique
Yeah,
name. Can you tell us the
yeah.
story behind it and how it came? Yeah, Vanessa, I have to tell you that those pictures are stunning. Really. Those pictures are stunning.
Yes, I feel like the ones where you
But I have
can,
no idea
yeah,
yet will it be possible in the future or not. But as per the trend,
yeah,
when we seeing the things, maybe and can possible. Nothing is impossible with we are trying anything. So in this case,
exactly.
it's very important. AI is important. Everyone should learn, as you mentioned. And when we talk more, more yeah, really, sometimes yeah, they are fine, but in some cases, in some practical scenarios, they sucks. And
I think stress had just become the norm for me. I was used to, when I graduated high school, I was juggling two jobs and trying to go to medical school and get that figured out. And I did that for a long time. And I just don't believe we're single purposed individuals and it's okay to have multiple callings. But making sure that when you're in it, you're in it. There's a lot of times where I think we try to split our focus.
good morning, folks. Welcome to Ashland Talks. Today on Ashland Talks, we're joining by Vanessa Mitera, brand strategist, founder of Mitera Branding, and creator of Eden Empire. Vanessa's work is rooted in powerful mission, helping women build brands that sounds like them, scale with conviction, and never sacrifice what's scared in the process. So let's welcome Vanessa Mitera to Ashland Talk. Vanessa, welcome back again.
Yay, I'm so excited.
Awesome. And Vanessa, we talk a lot about entrepreneurship and leaders, and especially women entrepreneurs. At the beginning
Yeah.
of the podcast, I would like to ask a question. Which was the stepstone for you, and when you started your business, and what is the vision of it, and how you approach it, and what's the stepstone, and when you begin it, and how you got this mindset? Because we have seen a lot of people going to office 8 to 5, 9 to 6, and this culture, and you jumped into entrepreneurship, and how it came, and how is your background work and helping to shape it, and let us know about it a lot.
Yeah, so I truly believe that entrepreneurship is something that I feel like you are called to because it is so difficult and there's so many instances where you feel like you just want out. So I definitely think it's not for the weak. It's something that I think that you were designed to do. And so my life, it wasn't like when I was younger, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I originally wanted to be a doctor. And I feel like so many doors were closed for me that really led me to this path that I'm on now as an entrepreneur. But I feel like along the way, so much has happened, and the business world tells you so many different things, and you have to be this and do this, and you have to follow these frameworks. And it just felt so disconnected for me. And so much of what I do comes from my own lived experience, and that I saw that there was this gap of, basically saying like, you have to kind of segment yourself and you have to sacrifice your time with your family if you want a successful business, and you have to sacrifice some of your values because those are things you don't talk about in business. And I was like, that to me is not, that didn't feel right. And I felt such a huge gap. And as I was leading other entrepreneurs, I really found like I found such a need for us to be able to have that integration into our business where we don't have to separate our business from our families, from our faith. And so it just kind of came to be where I saw that gap within everything.
Awesome. And Vanessa, when I seeing into your branding stuff and all, so what inspired you to start Mitera Branding? And it's like I'm seeing you brand yourself, and you are the brand of the business. And
Yes.
how you come into that, and what is the biggest misconception the people have about the branding?
Yeah. So I am a huge, well, first of all, I started in brand photography, and clients were coming to me for their business headshots and more of a holistic brand photo shoot. And I would ask them questions like where are these photos going to be used, and what are you planning to do? Just a deeper dive, trying to really envision where these images would be used. And so often they had no idea really the mission of their business or where they wanted. They just thought, okay, I need to upgrade my imagery. And I was like, we have to take a step back and we really have to look into your brand because I'm a huge believer that you are your brand, regardless of if your logo is front and center, you still are all the values and everything that go behind the scenes of your business. I'm more of a bigger advocate of you being within your business and people getting to know you and building that like and trust. But for myself, yes, I am so much of my brand and so much of everything I do is just rooted in the values that I instill. And so, clients were coming to me for that, and I was like, you know what, there has to be more. I have a background in branding and marketing, and so I was like, let's do a deeper dive. And I found with my clients, I was doing a lot of more holistic work with them. It wasn't just the images, it was how can we move farther and do a deeper dive into what your brand really is. And it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah. And when you talk about the branding, we have seen a lot of brands come in and goes, and but especially a lot of hardworking brands still sustainable and the growth perspective is there. But many entrepreneurs chase trend. And how do
Mhm.
you help your clients resist that pull and stay true to their vision? And what are the
Yeah.
key elements of a brand ecosystem that's supporting long-term growth?
Yeah, so I think that it is really hard in the world that we live in right now. It's so social media driven that we often tend to play this comparison game where we, see people doing XYZ on in their business, and then you see another person doing this in their business, and a lot of times you're just seeing that highlight reel. You're not seeing the behind the scenes of the things that they struggled with or the things that they had to do to get to that point. And so oftentimes we're faced with that comparison game and then imposter syndrome kind of comes into play. And I think that so often we think, okay, if I follow somebody else's framework or what they're doing in their business, it'll apply to me. And that's just not the case. I genuinely believe that we are designed with our own unique set of talents, lived experience, our gifts, all of these different things that make us so different than what's out there. And that's for a reason. If you look on my social media, everything I do, I work with faith-driven entrepreneurs. And so everything is rooted in, faith and values. And I believe that we were designed that way on purpose, not to blend in with everyone else. And I think what ends up happening is so many people are following those trends, even if it's like, a dance trend or a TikTok trend or, something like that. And it might not make sense for what your audience likes. It might not make sense for what your business is designed to do. So really, what we do a lot in my community and my brand work is we go really deep into who you were designed to be, because I feel like a lot of times we skip that. When we start a business, we are just like, oh my gosh, things are growing. This is amazing. And we don't do that deeper dive into who we are. But when you can do that, you can really connect with your audience and serve them on a deeper level instead of following those trends. So, being clear on who you are works into knowing your audience and therefore allows you to really understand how to get your brand seen, what makes the most sense for you. So it is kind of that ecosystem where, they have to kind of feed into one another. But it's all about finding that. And I don't know, I'm really big on listening to where you feel called to go versus, what the world tells you or social media tells you. You really have to stay rooted in that because not everything is meant for you.
True. Totally agreed with that. And so we're talking about the branding and the stuff. So the name Eden and Empire is such a unique
Yeah.
name. Can you tell us the
Yeah.
story behind it and how it came to your mind?
Yeah. Yeah, so Eden and Empire is a sub community of Mitera Branding. And it really came from the season that I was in where I felt like I was so burnt out. I was stressed. I really didn't know, I had so much success with my business, but it didn't feel like I thought it would. And I felt like, okay, there has to be, I have, I had originally had this podcast called Hustle with Heart. And I was like, that feels a little misaligned, but what we were doing in it, the theme of the podcast was to glorify God in everything you do. And in my business, I was working that behind the scenes, but it felt like there was still a piece missing. And so, I prayed and I had this season where it was like, I just need a little bit more clarity. And God revealed to me, you can have all these things. You can have what I genuinely feel like business was designed to be was not at the sacrifice of, you have to build this massive business, but then you never see your family, or you have no time to work on your faith. They don't have to compete with one another. In fact, they enhance one another. And so I was like, how do I build something that can honor that? Because that's where I feel called to go. I have two young boys. Right now, they're 3 and 6. And it felt like I was this burnt out person, stressed, felt like my time with them wasn't actually genuinely time with them because my mind was on work. And I was like, you know what, there has to be something different. So Eden, if you know anything biblically, Eden is this place where, it's from the start, what God intended business, I feel like, to be, is this ecosystem and really the values implemented in your faith and your family. And then your empire is that I do believe that God gave us this calling and he wants us to build that. You can have that abundance, whatever that looks like. For me, I wanted it to be something that was sustainable and not revenue driven, because I really believe as you build it strong, the people will come. So that's kind of, I wish I had like a really clever, this is where the name came from, but it really is more so just what I experienced in life.
Yeah. And when I listening to you that you are very so calm and cool, and how do you stay inspired when things get tough and things get messy?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I think that it's just my tone because I literally just got out of a season that was so rough. I really believe that when you're called to something, you do go through periods of time where it tests you so that you can become that better leader on the other side of it. And so this past season, I had to deal with so many things that I thought I had healed from or didn't even need healing from that, I feel like God brought to the surface and said, if you want to move to this next level, these are things that you have to get away from. And so, to kind of get personal and like go back a little bit, like I never knew my biological father, and I was totally okay with that, never met him. But what ended up happening throughout my life, is that it was showing up for me in so many places. The anytime a client would say no, I had this deep rejection. And then, I was seeking validation from other people. And it was manifesting in my life so many different ways. And, I'm such a people pleaser. And so I don't set a lot of boundaries with family and I take on a lot of different things. And I think what God was really saying is, first of all, these are wounds that you need to heal because they're affecting so much of your life. You're high performing, you're high functioning, but at the cost of your own mental health, your physical health, because you're taking on things that are not yours to carry, and you need to deal with those if you're going to really be able to help people. And so now I've been able to really look and say, I don't want to live like that. Like, I don't want to be so stressed out and doing all the things. I want to be able to enjoy my time with my boys and my husband and run a business that I actually enjoy, not one that feels like it's, taking over and so stressed. And I had to learn to say no to certain clients, even if the paycheck looked amazing, because it really didn't, when I looked at the bottom line, was it really allowing me more freedom, or was it for that validation of saying, oh my gosh, you are making this amount of money, or, you achieved XYZ. So I think that comes from a season that
Yeah.
I ended up, having to, it was more of like a need that you have to solve this because you can't function in that way anymore.
Wow. And you had having a very beautiful family, and I have checked your pictures and your son and the things that
Thank
you doing the things well, and you have the right work life balance, and a lot of people messed up with that, and to be frank with you. And when we talk more about the branding and the stuff, so these days a lot of trends are going on, the AI, and especially when it's come to AI generated pictures, uh, is
Mhm.
it trustworthy with the pictures or not? And so how you seeing this AI trend with the branding, and how you tackle this trending stuff?
Yeah, so I love this question. It's something that I actually am addressing too, like on a future podcast. So that's fresh for me. I think for myself, I encourage AI, right? Because I'm such a big person in the sense of it's a tool, right? AI is not brand new. I think that people think like chat GPT, that aspect of it is newer, but we use AI. I mean, as a photographer, I used AI in Photoshop for years. We have AI on our phones. We've had AI with algorithms. Like, there's so many different ways that AI has been integrated. It's a tool, right? And so, for myself, you have to be able to discern what is right and what's wrong, right? Because AI is really just prompted by what you're feeding it. And so it doesn't replace me as an expert. I like to think of it as if I'm going to use it, I hired somebody on to do the tasks that weren't really a good use of my time. And as a leader, most when you step into that leadership role, a lot of what you're doing as a leader is approving and, unapproving, like saying no to this and yes to this, or tweaking this and saying this could be better, this could be that. So it doesn't replace your expertise. And I think when it goes back to the photo aspect of it, I don't think it's there yet. I think it has a ways. But there are still, if it makes you feel better, if you need to spruce up certain aspects of it, or you need to, go to a branding photo shoot, as a brand photographer, I'm always such an advocate of saying, just invest in that. Like people can tell, even
Yeah.
though it's getting a little bit harder, but just invest in
And
it. It's worth it.
yeah, Vanessa, I have to tell you that those pictures are stunning. Really, those pictures are stunning.
Yes, I feel like the ones where you can invest in, there are some AI photos that are like, wow, those are incredible. But I think there's a level of gratitude that comes with you knowing like, oh my gosh, that's me. Like that's my actual image that AI kind of can't replace.
Yeah. And these days, AI is getting more, it's trying to replace the contemporary setup and all. But I have
Mhm.
no idea how the future will be looks like. But a lot of people are
Mhm.
still used to use, as you mentioned, ChatGPT, and they have recently announced GPT-5, I think yesterday, Sam Altman.
Mhm.
And so it's getting smarter day by day, and people are used to
Yeah.
it. And when it's come to picture generation and all, and people think about the Hollywood level, how to make a movies with the AI. But I have no idea
Yeah.
yet, will it be possible in the future or not? But as per the trend, when
Yeah.
we seeing the things, maybe and can possible. Nothing is
Right.
impossible without we are trying anything. So in this case,
Exactly.
it's very important. AI is important. Everyone should learn, as you mentioned, and you are into that. And what is your guidance to the youngsters who are listening to this podcast, that how they have to use the AI? And I have seen even in some YouTube videos, and even YouTube announced that if there's a more than 90% of AI generated stuff in a video, so they are not
Yep.
monetized that one. So that's a
Yep.
blockage there. So how to tackle this kind of blockage, and how a person can use the AI in a efficient and effective way? And what's your experience, and can you share with us?
Yeah, so a lot of work that I do with people is, around their branding and marketing. And so I don't encourage like the video or the photo aspect of it, which for some people, I mean, they create entire brands that are completely AI generated and they're making a lot of money. I think the thing about it is that technology, and especially something that we don't own, can go away in an instant. There's something that could happen to AI, or we saw this with TikTok, right? There were so many influencers on TikTok, and TikTok got banned for a little bit, so they lost that stream of income. I think that it's never a replacement for you as an individual. So it's worth investing in the knowledge of how to do those things. Again, taking on that mindset of a leader versus a manager, a leader knows how to do those things, but they delegate it out. And that's really how I kind of view AI, is like, for me, it's just something that I can delegate out certain tasks, but it doesn't replace my expertise as, the owner, the leader, because I never want to be at the mercy of technology because we know how technology is just in general. And so, I think that it can be great. I use it with caution and just with the knowledge that it's not perfect. It can get things wrong. And I think we are training ourselves to kind of learn what's AI and what's not as well. So that will be a factor that I think people will kind of hopefully get to recognize. I can understand that there's a lot that
Yeah.
could
Uh,
very easily scam people. So,
True, a lot of things are happening about the AI right now in the market, and especially people are used to human touch, and they are looking for that. And AI,
yeah.
it looks like a machine and stuff. So even a lot of corporates also using for WhatsApp and algorithm stuff. Still, I have no
Yeah.
idea it's working well or not, and I have tried with some other messaging apps and all. It sucks. And when we talk more, more yeah, really, sometimes yeah they are fine, but in some cases, in some practical scenarios, they sucks. And
Yes. Yes.
and so I have to ask one more important question, that you are handling like multiple ventures right now, and how you handling the burnout?
Yeah. Um, I would say the me a year ago was not. I thought that I was in a lot of ways because I was somebody who was high functioning, like I mentioned. I think stress had just become the norm for me. I was used to, when I graduated high school, I was juggling two jobs and trying to go to medical school and get that figured out. And I did that for a long time. And so that had just become my norm. But when you step into something that's a business, it's entirely different. There's no blueprint, there's no framework. It's based on what you know and what you can do, and you're on your own for a lot of things. And that's where I feel like I was really called to step in and say, you have to handle this if you really want clarity on where you're called to go. And so I handle it a lot differently now. I'm very aware of when I'm taking on too much. I offloaded about 50% of my workload. My clients had to, take a step and say, and I'm blessed, I'm blessed in the fact that I can do that. Not everybody can. But I offloaded a lot of my clients and I said, if I'm going to build this, I'm going to build this really strong. I can't be a leader who is stressed and taking on all of these different things because I'm not serving my family well, I'm not serving myself well, and I'm not serving my clients very well. And then I'm aware of when I need to bring on more team members or, but really just being centered in my own capacity and saying, okay, this is going to be a heavy week. You need to decompress and find things that you enjoy doing and taking off that time. Like right now, I'm going into a very heavy launch season, but I'm doing it in a way that's sustainable and not trying to scramble last minute for everything. Hopefully that works out, but that you never know how that'll go. So.
Yeah. And when we talk about the branding and entrepreneurship, and we talk about the AI, and you have plenty of hands on every sectors, and you're managing the business and the family and the stuff. Actually, you are a very busy woman. And what's one thing about you most people wouldn't guess from your professional bio?
I would say that I actually don't. I love being home. Like I could spend weeks and weeks and weeks without ever leaving the house. And my husband jokes about the fact that like obviously I work from home, but I'm so content just being in my little bubble and never having to like go out and socialize and just I could just be at home all the time. So I don't think that's probably something that most people don't know is I can be what I have to be when I have to be it, but I prefer to be just chill. So.
Wow, great. And what's one branding mistake you see even experienced business owners make?
I think that the biggest thing that they don't do is taking time to be clear on what they actually want within their business. They're so called to, oh, I'm getting clients and they're taking on everybody or taking on everything, but they didn't do the inner work to figure out, what is your brand? What do you actually want it to be? So that you can make the decisions come so much clearer when you're clear on, that aspect of it.
Wow. And if you had to describe your brand in 3 words, what would they be?
Okay. I could answer this two ways. You said 3 words?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I will make it
Um,
5.
I don't know if that'll help me. I'm not good at naming things on the spot. My brand is, I mean, it's faith, family, and um, what would the last F be? Faith, family, and business, finance, or
Yeah.
if I
That
want to
that
do another F,
that
but
first two are most important. Faith
yeah,
and
yes.
family,
Yeah.
this stuff should be. And especially I want to repeat that again. A lot of people, even my listeners, they are struggling to maintain the work life balance. It's I have no idea. Some people are like 90% like a robot into work, 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 and family life they messed up and end up in a lot of problems and issues, children and divorce, and it's going on. And again, some people are good with the family and all, but financial level and the business setup is very low position, and they want to work 8 to 5 again, and they have to back to that mindset from the entrepreneurship. So this
Mhm.
something like you mastered on. How you balance this stuff, that family and the work life balance, and how you seeing from your point of view?
Yeah, so I don't feel like a master in it. I feel like it's never balance. So it's learning to prioritize, or some other people like to say harmonize. For me, I think it's like prioritizing. And so there are seasons where my family gets more of my attention than my business does, and that's totally okay. So, for example, I just got done, school's finally back. And, for the whole summer, I had my son home and I took on less work so I could spend more time with him and have him home. And now that he's back in school, my business will get, as I go into a launch season, my business will get more of my attention. It just ebbs and flows. I have to know that when I'm with my boys, I'm with them 100%. When I'm in my business, I'm in my business. And that's okay for us to have that identity outside of, being a parent, being a spouse, being a business owner, and just, being called to. I just don't believe we're single-purposed individuals, and it's okay to have multiple callings. But making sure that when you're in it, you're in it. There's a lot of times where I think we try to split our focus and we say, well, I'm hanging out with my kids, but I'm answering emails, or I'm out
Mm,
to dinner and, I'm responding to a client call. I get that. But you set the boundaries with your business. Your clients are actually more at the mercy of what you say than the other way around. And if a client doesn't understand that, that's not a client I take on. It's not numbers driven for me. It's more about protecting my peace, protecting the things that I want, and then those things will come. Um, but it's what's the point? If you're burnt out, you're stressed, you don't have a family, you might have the
mm,
money in the bank, but at what cost? So
true.
I think it's just taking that mindset.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And Vanessa, what's the best advice you ever gotten about scaling a business?
Oh, the best advice. Okay, so this is probably gonna sound crazy. But in the middle of the night, I was woken up, and if you're a believer, like that 3 o'clock or middle of the night hour, usually you kind of listen. And so I was just woken up, and I heard, like, in my mind it said, "Build it strong, and they will come." And so that's kind of the motto that I really live by is I'm building my business strong and I know those people will come. And so to me, that encompasses building sustainably, making sure that I'm building for my people, and then just knowing that it's more impact driven versus revenue, and that part of it will come when it needs to.
Wow. And Vanessa, we have talked a lot about the business, branding, and as I mentioned before, the AI and all. So the work-life balance. And a lot of listeners are listening to this, especially they are entrepreneurs and new incomers to the industry and startup people. And what is your best advice for those people when they're building a business? So they have to focus on branding, especially. So they need
Mhm.
you, and how they can find you, and where you are active on, and it reached for globalized audience. It's a lot of people. Right now, I am from Dubai and America and Canada and Asia and Russia, and a lot of people are. So it's a globalized. So how can they
Yeah.
reach you, and what is the advice you can give to them in the future? And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Eden and Empire is a global platform, thankfully. So, you can reach me anywhere, Eden and Empire. On my socials, it's Mitera Branding. But I think the advice that I would give to them is probably different than what you hear. So if you're somebody who's transitioning, newly into entrepreneurship, I think a lot of times we hear like, you need to fully step into entrepreneurship if you want to be taken seriously. And my mindset on that is actually the opposite. It's a great feat, and I did it. I did my 9 to 5 for so long before I stepped into entrepreneurship, and I'm grateful that I did that because it took so much of the stress and the burden off of my business, especially when it's brand new, to have to perform. And you can actually build it from a place that's strong because you're able to reinvest back into it. But if every dollar that you're spending, when you're first starting your business, of course you're trying to pay yourself, but then you're stressed out on that end. But what I did in my business is that everything my business was making, I reinvested it back in because I had my 9 to 5 to really help me supplement to take that stress off of me. So I think a lot of times it's okay to wait. Obviously, don't wait too long, but wait until your business is, you are able to. Don't put that stress on yourself unnecessarily. It's okay to have a season where you're doing a lot of work, but make sure that it's with the right mindset in a way that's sustainable for your mental health and for your family. Don't do it just because you want to be taken more seriously. Do what makes the most sense.
Awesome. And when you talk about the health and the mental health, especially, so there are a lot of people are into yoga stuff, and some people are into drinking water. They have the limitation stuff and the sodium level and all. They have very precise about the health. So when it's come
Yeah.
to a person like CEO or business owners like you, and the timing is very crucial. So actually
Mhm.
do you have time to maintain the health, and how it works in your case?
I must be doing something right if I look pretty busy because I mean, it feels, this is actually a light season for me. But what I do a lot is, again, just being really aware of what I take on. I'm really strict with my schedule and saying, on weekends, I don't take anything on. There was a season where I went through where I was doing like networking events and doing all of these things in the evening at the sacrifice of my time with my family. And not that that didn't pay off, but it really burnt me out and it really depleted me. And I realized I don't want to do that anymore. If I do take it on, it's very sparingly. But I block out a lot of things, which I batch a lot of content. I batch a lot of meetings, whatever the case is, that's really helpful. But it's just being really strict with my schedule and placing those boundaries and saying, this is when I'm available. This is when I get work done. Does it always work out 100%? No. But I'm really aware of all of those things. And if it doesn't work to take it on, I kind of weigh out, does this make sense long term? If I take on this client, what's this gonna mean for my family, for my bank, all of these different things. And if it doesn't make sense, then I just don't take it on. And I know that sounds that's a privilege, right? Like a privilege to be able to turn down people, but that also comes with having a premium brand that you're charging enough that you don't have to, to worry about everything that's coming in. And then also being really lean on my expenses. I don't have to have the biggest, best thing, but at the same time, a lot of the things that cost a lot of money, that's what I do for my business, so I can take those things on too. So,
Wow, that's a golden words and golden rules. And that is Vanessa Mitera, brand strategist, founder of Mitera Branding, and creator of Eden Empire. And we have discussed a lot about entrepreneurship, especially branding and AI and the life work balance, and more about the business situations right now. and for the entrepreneurs and who are stepping stone where they have to start from. And there's a lot of lessons and practical lessons we have discussed a lot, and the family life especially. And yeah, it's a time for exit. Thank you very much, everyone. And Vanessa Mitera, thank you very much for your valuable time and busy days.
Thank you. It was so fun. I'm honored to be on.